Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey. Over the past few days, we've been blessed to hear from Dave Palmer and Sissel Anderson as they shared powerful stories from their pilgrimage to Medjugorje. And today, we're wrapping it all up with a very special guest to help us bookend this incredible experience. And joining us now is the Vice President of Mission Advancement at Guadalupe Radio Network, Mr. Shaun Rice. Good morning, or maybe I should still say good afternoon, Shaun.
Good afternoon, Keith, and how I wish it were still morning. We're already through lunch. We're already through a couple of morning walks, and yeah, we are actually on the downside of our day. How are y'all doing?
Doing well. Very blessed, and very blessed to hear from you, Shaun. For those out there that are just tuning in, maybe give us a quick recap of what you're doing over there in Medjugorje.
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Keith, I do want to first and foremost thank Joel and Elizabeth Victory, who has organized this pilgrimage through 206 Tours. And we also want to give a big shout out to Mary TV, the communications department there in Medjugorje. But what we've done, we've been on pilgrimage now for now almost 7 days or so now. As I mentioned, we're winding down, but we're actually in the process of recording a documentary where we want to bring the message and help bring that message of Our Lady Queen of Peace to those that that we can reach. So just yesterday, as you're aware, when Sissel was on the air with you, they were celebrating the 44th anniversary of the official first apparitions to Our Lady Queen of Peace to the 6 visionaries, right? And now the goal is to get that message out. I mean, Our Lady's message is very simple, right? It's peace, 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 only peace. The visionaries asked her the question, who are you? And she said, I am the Queen of Peace. And they also go on to ask, why are you here? And Our Lady, it's so fitting even to this day, right? She says, I'm here to tell you that God exists, because mankind lives as if he doesn't. Mir, mir, mir. She also, talks about how Satan has come and is strong and wants to destroy the family. I mean, how often have we heard that message, right? And she wants us to pray as a family. There's 5 stones that you hear about often as it pertains to Medjugorje. And these 5 stones, and I love the reference to stones, because it's like us taking on our Goliath. Right, how David, takes on Goliath and slews him with the stones. But of course, these 5 stones, and it's very simple and practical. Pray the rosary, with our heart every day. Fasting twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays. Visiting, and attending, Holy Confession every month. Receiving the Eucharist every Sunday, and reading the Bible every day. I mean, how simple can it be? But I think a lot of times, just like as in anything else, we tend to make things a little more difficult than they need to be.
That's so true. That was so powerful, Shaun. I know you've been on pilgrimages before, but what was like your first impression when you arrived in Medjugorje?
I think it goes back and harkens back to Our Lady's words, peace. It's such a simple word, but it can be so difficult to attain because of humanity and our own sinfulness and our own weakness and such. But when you get to Medjugorje, this wonderful village, the one thing that really struck out to me was just this feeling of peace. Everybody there, from so many different flags, around the world, so many different languages you speak, but you see and experience this abundant faith. This abundant love for not just our church and our faith, but of Our Lady. And it very much is a uniting presence. I know y'all heard it, and I can't help but to talk about it even more. But when you're in the village, when you're in the town, you see these homes, and you're passing by every home front, and you've got a statue of Our Lady. You've got a statue of the Holy Family. You've got a statue of St. Michael. Every vehicle has a rosary hanging from the rearview mirror. So, again, that was the feeling that I first came across, and that's the feeling that most pilgrims are going to experience when they get there for the first time.
Wow, that almost seems like a culture shock going from, our secular world to somewhere with those statues and rosaries and just so much Catholic things around the town. Speaking Speaking of Our Lady, you have a very deep relationship with her, but how has your devotion to Our Lady changed or deepened because of this trip?
That's a great question. I'm glad you bring that up because, I came to this as one of those that would often say, you know what, let me just stick to, the church approved apparitions. Let me just stick to what, the church has approved. But let me ask you something. During those times when Our Lady appeared at Fatima, when Our Lady appeared at Lourdes, was there not that initial phase? Was there not that building up the foundation for the church to have that opportunity to do some digging, and whatnot, and eventually those apparitions came to finally be known and church approved? That's how I almost feel about here. You cannot deny, all right, when you're here with the people, when you're here on this holy ground, the fruit. I mean, there's a ton of people. I mean, we just finished praying, in adoration last night to wrap up the anniversary mass with tens of thousands of people, Keith. We were on our knees in adoration, on bended knee, just worshiping our Eucharistic Lord. We were there again with tens of thousands of people celebrating the Holy Mass. And there's so many, there's so many stories that I heard, even just, meeting with some pilgrims from Ireland, meeting some pilgrims from Colombia, and they talk about personal stories, personal conversions, vocational stories. I mean, it's beautiful stuff, man.
Wow, it sounds incredible. Just kind of the diversity of people that are joining in this anniversary.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm glad you also mentioned too, kind of the skepticism that's out there. From what I remember, the church has been basically said it's okay to go to Medjugorje. Like there's no issue with pilgrims going to Medjugorje.
Right. Actually, I want to bring this up too because in September 19th of 2024, so just last year, Pope Francis granted a nil obstat for Medjugorje. And what that means basically is that they have found nothing that is contrary to the teachings of the church. And again, at that time, organized pilgrimages are allowed to take place and whatnot. And it's a beautiful people. Look, prior to any of this coming out, people have been called. They say Our Lady calls each one of us to see her. And to make that walk up Apparition Hill, to see people, do this act, of faith in bare feet, it's just beautiful. And of course, when you're amongst tens of thousands of individuals, experiencing this together, it's super special. And I get the great blessing of not only experiencing this with my GRN family, with Sissel and Dave, but my wife is here with me, and again, she really introduced me to a relationship with our Blessed Mother. First with Our Lady of Guadalupe, and now this. I mean, it just goes on and on. But yeah, there's no denying the fruits that are coming out of this holy place.
So you're there for basically producing a documentary. Are you able to share with us just a little bit about what the documentary is about?
I can actually. So it's going to take some time before we get it into production and have the final product. But what our goal is to highlight the message of Medjugorje, right? And again, to get that word out there, to pray for the conversion of hearts, to pray for peace. Pray for peace in the world. Take a look at what's going on right now in our world. Even as we're here on pilgrimage, I mean, the current events going on, there's a need to pray for peace. There's a need to pray for peace in families. There's a need to pray for internal peace. So this documentary is going to hopefully capture, some of that, and not to mention just capture some of these as we accompany some of the pilgrims that are on here. And kind of follow them along their own journey, right? So from prior, things that, what was their faith like prior to this pilgrimage? What was their faith, what was that transformation like in progress as we have, journeyed and taken this journey together? And then what the fruits of that might be, afterwards. And of course, you may not experience fruits, but, from months, years down the road from now. But, it's going to be able to, it's going to be super awesome to be able to at least capture even just a fraction of that. And if we can do that, I think we would hit the nail on the head, Keith.
Amen. So I have to ask and it probably seems like a blur for these whole 7 days, but what has been your most favorite parts of this pilgrimage?
I'd hate to say be one of those guys that say, well, all of it, right? But it very much. I think there's every aspect of this pilgrimage has been so beautiful. I will say, climbing up Apparition Hill was beautiful, and experiencing Mass and adoration with tens of thousands of our brothers and sisters in Christ. I mean, it was just amazing. I have never been one. I've never been to like a World Youth Day or something of that magnitude, but to see that many people, and we were flying our USA flag, we were flying our Texas flag, and people from all over were wanting to just get by the flag, and oh my gosh, real Texans, real Americans, how about that?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that
so
too.
It was super awesome.
I bet. Sissel mentioned, and you too, marytv.tv. You might be able to see a glimpse of those flags, the Texas flag, and you guys out there on the peace walk. So make sure to check that out, marytv.tv. But my goodness, Shaun, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We will pray for all of you for a very safe return, and very excited to hear more about some of these stories. And of course, those out there listening, as we continue, we'll be going to, slowly trickle the development of this incredible documentary that the GRN is looking to produce. So,
that sounds great. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that our listeners know, to stay tuned to our social feeds. Stay connected to GRN social feeds. I know you're going to be doing some things with some of the shorts and some of the reels. So, just stay connected with us, all across GRN family.
Well said. Well, you just heard from the Vice President of Mission Advancement at the Guadalupe Radio Network, Mr. Shaun Rice. Thank you so much for joining us. And that is the end of Morning Joy, where truth matters slightly. The conversation does continue online with our round table. Just search Morning Joy Radio or GRN online, like Shaun just mentioned, on any of the social media platforms, because that's where we're going to be for the next half hour or so. So for those joining, or at least staying for the Holy Mass coming up next, please keep us all in your prayers. Also keep those that are over there in Medjugorje in your prayers, as we also continue to keep you and your intentions in ours. But if this is us truly parting ways for the morning, God bless, make it a joyful Thursday, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.